Hello and welcome to another video on the channel about playoff hockey. Today we're going to be talking about the Bruins goaltending situation. Now, as of right now, I'm pretty sure it has not been announced who is starting Game 2 at the time I'm recording. And this has been a topic of discussion for months leading up until this game actually, was the Bruins' deployment of goaltenders in the playoffs. And there's history behind this for why people are talking about it so much. There's stats behind it for why people are talking so much. And it's really just an intriguing problem, or I shouldn't say problem, but more of a dilemma that the Bruins management has. And they have kind of struggled with the goaltending in the playoffs in the past in terms of management. So we're going to talk about the potential rotation. Let's talk about the goalies at hand. First and foremost, the guy who started Game 1, only let him one goal, saved about 35 shots. That's Jeremy Swayman. Now, Jeremy Swayman is a young goaltender, only 25 years old. In goalie years, that's fairly young. But the sample size we have from him is decent size for a 25-year-old goaltender, 132 games, .919 save percentage. Has played behind a really good Bruins team for most of his career, and has been a really good goaltender throughout most of his career with very few bad stretches. He's up and coming. He's probably the Bruins goalie of the future. But that being said, there's also Linus Ullmark, the other guy at hand here. Linus Ullmark, you may remember, you may not remember, he won the Vezina Trophy last year for the league's best goaltender. And Linus Ullmark last year was insane. He had like a .938, something like that for his save percentage. He won a ton of games. He had a Swayman backing him up, so even when he wasn't playing, the Bruins were still doing well in that, and they broke the NHL points record. It's really a fantastic problem to have when you really break it down, but the debate really comes with, do you rotate every game? Do you play the hot hand? That's been the topic on Boston Sports Radio. All my friends talk about it. That's all that's really been talked about the Bruins. They ignore the scoring woes, but they talk about the goaltenders. But it's a fair conversation because both these goalies are NHL starting level goalies. They're both probably top 10 in skill in the league, top 15 at minimum. And they both could be starting on playoff teams, and they both deserve to be starting for the Bruins. But there's only one net to guard. And you look at the last 20 going in, and you'll see Linus Ullmark was far better going into the playoffs, and most people are leaning towards Linus Ullmark being the goalie for Game 1. On the other hand, though, in the regular season matchups, the Bruins swept the Maple Leafs, and Jeremy Swayman started every game against the Maple Leafs, and when Game 1 rolled around, the way the rotation worked, Linus Ullmark started the last game of the regular season, Swayman was going to get the first game of the playoffs if the rotation continued. And now that Swayman has been given the first game, has played fantastic in the first game, it makes people wonder, do you just stick with Swayman or do you go to the rotation? Now, if you look in the playoffs, it is rare to find a team that has done a rotation. I did not find one in recent history. There may be something really far back that I didn't go far back enough to find. There's been instances where goalies lose their job throughout the playoffs. Marc-Andre Fleury, when he lost it to Matt Murray, and Matt Murray went on to win 2 cups as a starter, which is wild. The Wild, actually, speaking of Wild, they had that thing where they tried to rotate it. I believe it was Gustafsson, had a really good Game 1. Then they put Fleury in for Game 2, and Fleury got shelled, and they went back to Gustafsson for Game 3. I believe they didn't make it out of that series. Very different situation. But it goes to show that most teams have gone pretty far in the playoffs riding one goalie. But the thing where this gets kind of convoluted is when you go into the management side of things. And you know, this is not from a fan perspective, but this is from like the management perspective. Like, what's your future like? If you remember a few months ago, just in March or early March, Linus Ullmark was probably going to get traded, but he put in his no-trade clause. The rumor was he was going to the LA Kings, and the Bruins might be getting back a package that included Pierre-Luc Dubois. That is a rumor, though. That is not confirmed. That is the rumor. And Linus Ullmark, going into the trade deadline, expected to be moved, but it didn't happen. And it goes to show that, is the Bruins management just looking at this as, let's give Swayman a run, we'll see what goes on, we'll see how he does, and no matter what, we're going to ride and die with our future goaltender. Now, that's long-term thinking, not short-term thinking, and I would hope they're looking at win now. And you could argue Swayman is the option for win now, but it's not clear-cut because you got a guy who won the Vezina Trophy last year behind him. You then go into contract situations, and right now, The Bruins are paying $8.4 million combined for these guys. That's not going to continue. Jeremy Swayman is going to get a pay raise to what I don't know. If I had to guess, it's probably the $5 to $6 million range. And if I had to guess, the Bruins probably do not want to be spending more on goaltending next year, and they might be planning on riding Swayman as the number one, with maybe bringing up someone from Providence or signing someone as a backup to be Swayman's backup. That's a rumor, and the indications from trying to trade Ullmark suggest that. And that being said, they could ride with Swayman and Ullmark next year, and it could be fine. But then I think the Bruins are kind of in the stage where they want to get something for Ullmark because they know they have a good goaltender who probably can be a workhorse, even though this rotation has worked so good in the past. And the last real factor to really talk about here when it comes to just like kind of why this is such a big talking point is the Bruins have been really like screwed by goaltending situations lately with injuries in the playoffs. We go back to 2021. Tuukka Rask was playing through a hip injury, and you see Andrew Raycroft, who is a former Bruins goaltender, won Rookie of the Year with us, and traded to the Leafs for Tuukka Rask, actually. He said Rask can't play through Game 6. This is 2021 versus the Islanders, by the way. They started him in Game 6, and you can see down here the stats I pulled up. 4 goals against on 27 shots. Really bad showing. I'm pretty sure he got hip surgery after this year. Just mismanagement. Don't play an injured goalie. Then last year, Linus Ullmark, debilitating injury during the Stanley Cup playoffs. They played him in most of the Florida series, and then they played Swayman in Game 7, and you see what happened to Swayman. Swayman hadn't played in 6 games, and they put him in, and then he didn't do too hot in Game 7. A little bit of a choke job there at the end, too. But it just goes to show that like the Bruins' health in net is important, which is why a lot of people are talking about this rotation, because in the last few playoff runs, 2 of the last 3, we've ended up having goaltenders who get injured and we play them anyway, and then they don't do well because they are injured. So it's a massive talking point because people are like, we got to keep the goaltenders fresh. We got 2 good ones. Why wouldn't you just rotate them? You know, you keep them both healthy. But that being said, I think when you look at like the Bruins management aspect, when you look at the fact that they tried to trade Ullmark, the contract situation with Ullmark coming up soon, Swayman's coming to RFA, and just the money they're going to have to spend, and the fact they're trying to trade him, they probably want to get a center who can score, which is why they're probably looking at someone like Pierre-Luc Dubois, even though I want nothing to do with Pierre-Luc Dubois. But it just goes to show they're willing to move on from one of these guys, and it's probably going to be Ullmark, who's 30 years old. And, you know, I'd love to have this tandem next year, selfishly as a Bruins fan, when it comes to goaltending. But at the same time, if you can get a piece for one of them that can really help the team get out of their scoring woes that they sometimes go into, that would be a plus, too, when you know you have a guy in Swayman who's young and can probably take the lion's share of starts next year. And for his career, he probably should be a guy who's starting 50 to 60 games next year, which is why I see it going that way. And it's why I could see maybe the Bruins just saying, we're going with our guy in the playoff run, give him a whole playoff run for the experience aspect. And that's why I'm kind of on the side of, I think you do go with Jeremy Swayman. How could you pull him after Game 1? I don't think you could take him out of the lineup. He's been too good. Against the Leafs, you know, why mix with something that's worked? He's confident against them. The Maple Leafs, throughout all the games they played, they cannot solve him. I don't know if they're going to be able to solve him enough to the point that the Leafs can win this series. After watching Game 1, I have a big question about their ability to score against us consistently and their ability to stop us scoring, because the Bruins are not a team that really gets a ton of depth scoring, but that's all we got in Game 1. It was all the gritty guys getting in. It was Pat Maroon creating a goal, Jesper Boquist, John Beecher got that first goal. I'm pretty sure that was the first goal. It was all 3 of them that I just said. Brandon Carlo scored. Just a lot of guys who usually don't score were getting in on the scoring. So it's good to see that, and I think you don't mess with something that's not broken. It's not broke, don't fix it type of thing, you know. That's how I look at it. I think Jeremy Swayman is capable of being hot, going on a run. He's a confident goaltender. I'm a little biased. I went to UMaine. He played at UMaine when I was at UMaine. But that being said, like he's a guy who can be the number one, can take over the net, and I think he can lead the Bruins far. That being said, I also do think Ullmark's capable of that, but I just think with where Swayman's at his career, I think the management aspect is something to look at, and I personally hope to see Jeremy Swayman starting Game 2 tonight, which I will be at, actually, by the way. And that's my thoughts on the goaltending situation. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. Hit like, hit subscribe if you want to watch more playoff content on my channel. No more videos today, just this one. But tomorrow there will be more. See you in the next video. Have a great day. Peace.